Hi, Steve. It's so nice to have you on the show. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm having an awesome day. It is a good Wednesday.
Beautiful. And like I mentioned earlier, thank you so very much for honoring the invite. I truly appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, Steve. You see, I am quite excited to have you on the show for some reasons. All right. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking, because I believe in order to transition from a chaotic situation to that of a beautiful one, it takes the application of knowledge, quality information. And you see, Steve, I was reading the writings of an ancient monarch, King Solomon, and he said in his writings, he said, seek knowledge, seek understanding and wisdom, as you would seek your lost money or an hidden treasure. That's profound. And ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance in the Hebrew, I've been so keen to knowledge seeking, Steve, because I do not want to remain in the dark. And that's going to make our conversation here today very, very important to me and even to the audience. Okay, the second reason why I'm excited to have Steve on the show is for the sake of the listeners. I believe there are some things that Steve, that some of the audience needs to hear you say this stuff directly from your mouth in order for them to be enlightened, educated, get unstuck, and experience transformation. I firmly believe that. And lastly, that is me again. You know, I am convinced I'm definitely going to learn one or two things from you, Steve, from your story, your insights, and your experiences. So, for that reason, Steve, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your journey, how you got here. Then, afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Steve, over to you.
Sure. The story, the short version, I'll keep it kind of short. Basically, I woke up in 2012 after working in a good job, but it was a job that at the end of the day required a lot of hours and a lot of time. And it was a capped position, as in I had reached the top of what I could make there. I realized that if I really wanted um, to reach my full potential, I would need to go out and start my own business and do my own thing. So that is what I ended up doing. I quit my job and I moved across the country and started a public speaking business. Failed at it for about a year and a half before I had any success at all. I was living with friends at the time. It was kind of interesting. I'd gone from, having a very nice lifestyle, being able to afford a lot of things, to sleeping on a friend's couch and trying to make things work. But we finally got to some success, and that was 2014. Started to see some success, and then grew from there. And started to see more success, and it's just refining it over and over and over again. And then even during COVID, going into COVID, we had our biggest year ever, doing really well, but then we had to reinvent ourselves during COVID. um, we primarily did live events and public speaking in person, and I swore that I was never going to do online stuff. um, but we started a podcast, and then we started doing virtual events. We started doing webinars, started doing virtual workshops, kind of pivoted the business, did very well during COVID. And then coming out of COVID, we found a lot of success again through public speaking and also um, online as well. So it's kind of been a hybrid, but it's always growing and always learning.
Beautiful. Always growing and always learning. You see, I learned two things from your short story. Number one, the fact that you realize that you would not reach your full potential until you start your own business. And you took that bold step of starting your own business because you discovered that in order for you to reach your full potential, you have to have your own business. And you see, Steve, I believe this is one of the reasons why we are yet to have some inventions, because there are some folks who are still um, tied up with their job, even though they know that this ain't giving me any fulfillment. I'm not reaching the extent I ought to reach, but just because of survival. And now, your story is quite inspiring and encouraging for folks like that to take that bold step. And now, see what you're doing, helping folks who are interested in public speaking become more confident. You see, that's a good one. I love it. I love it. Okay, so that's going to lead to the very first question. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so for folks who want to become a public speaker, let's say they ask you, hey Steve, how do we get started in public speaking? What can you tell them briefly?
Yeah, they're the two things that you need to pay attention to at first. The first thing is make sure that you pick a topic that people want to hear about. Easy ones are motivational, but people, you can't just be motivational. You have to have an outcome that people want. So pick a specific outcome, and it should probably be something that you have done successfully. It can also, though, be something that you care a lot about. If you care a lot about it and you do research, if you research the topic enough, you're going to come up with your own views on that. So the first piece is topic. Make sure it is something that people care about and that matters to you. You have to be able to talk about it, and it has to have an outcome that people want. The second thing is how you share it. Most people are very scared of public speaking because they're scared of what people are going to think about them. And what I have seen is it's not just grin and bear it and get up on stage and start talking. You have to actually build a talk. So the best way, the way that I got started that was recommended to me, and the way that I would recommend anyone who is nervous about speaking begin, is pick one of your favorite TED Talks or one of your favorite YouTube talks. It should be a talk that's given in front of a crowd of people. When I started, I picked Steve Jobs, I did Tony Robbins, and I also picked I don't know the guy's name, but it was a random TED Talk. And I memorized those, and I gave each one of those talks 25 times. What this did was it built the muscle memory of how to do things. If you're learning how to play basketball, you're not just going to go out and start shooting and be a good shooter. You have to work on the fundamentals. How do you hold the ball? How do you jump? How do you release? And then those things become fluid. So how do you do that for public speaking? Most people think that they have some idea of how to do public speaking, but really they have no idea. Instead, go take, I would say, one or two talks, 15 to 20 minutes that you absolutely love, and break it down, build note cards, mirror that person. If they're a good public speaker, which I would think anyone would say, Tony Robbins would be considered in the top, you're going to model that really, really well. And you're going to pick up his mannerisms. You're going to pick up the tone. You're going to pick up the tempo. You're going to understand how he gets laughs from the audience. Mirror that. So the first piece is have a good piece of content that people want to hear about and have an outcome for them. And the second thing is learn the actual physical mannerisms that you need to be a good public speaker.
Insightful. I got that. I got that. So you mentioned you host webinars, virtual webinars. Now, for
Mhm.
folks who for folks who have anchored stuffs like these, and you see it just didn't convert, what would you like to say to them? Maybe the secret to a webinar that converts. Can you talk about that?
Sure. There are so many things that cause webinar conversion. So this is something that I've spent hundreds of hours critiquing, helping people build them. The biggest things that cause conversion. The first one is using stories. Everybody thinks I'm going to give so much value. I am going to teach so that they see so much value that they have to buy. This makes sense logically, but it does not work. That is not what causes conversion. What causes conversion is taking people from where they are one step. When you teach everything, you're trying to take people from a level 1 or 2 to a level 10. Instead, you just have to take them one level up, take them from a level 1 or a level 2 to a level 3. Use a lot of stories that allow people to see themselves doing the thing. This gets people excited and in a frame to buy. If you just teach, you overwhelm them. It's like giving somebody a book or having somebody buy a book on Amazon. You bought the book, I've solved the problem, but the book goes on the nightstand. Most people never read more than a page or two, and they never actually take action. But if you make them feel like they know everything, which is what happens when you overteach, they aren't going to buy from you. You want to teach just enough that they can get to the next step. Then you want to future pace them so that they see the big outcome, and you want to help them live that by telling them stories. So that's the first piece. The second piece is don't directly confront them about their objections. A lot of people will say, don't do this instead. What happens when we tell somebody how to do something? People put up their hands and they say, oh, I don't know if that's right. They start questioning it. And especially in Western culture, people have to be different, so they won't take that advice. Instead, use testimonials, customer stories, for each individual objection that you would get. If you would get a price objection, use a testimonial of somebody who had the same objection but bought anyway and got the outcome that you're promising. This will overcome the objection in the person's mind. Those are the two big changes that we make in people's webinars when I work with them to help optimize them. And we have seen conversion rates go from 2 or 3% to 25%, just using those two tactics.
Amazing. That was educating and well explained. And I believe you've just provided a solution to the issue of hosting webinars that does not convert. I got that. So now let us talk about stages. Okay. So for public speakers now who want to get on more stages, how can that be possible? You got that?
Yeah, if you want, getting on more stages, there's two ways that will get you on more stages. The first one is reach out to more people, not through a conventional form. If they do a call for speakers, they're probably getting 300 to 400 applicants. If you want to stand out in the applicants, first off, your splash reel should be no more than 20 to 25 seconds. Make it short and very punchy. People usually make splash reels 5 minutes. It's way too long. Most people are not going to watch past 30 seconds. So if you beat them to the punch, you'll stand out there. But more importantly, it is reach out and get to know the person that's hosting the event. Offer to help them somehow. That's going to get you on far more stages when you're getting started. The second thing that you want to do once you're on a few stages, when you're up on stage, you want to put somewhere in your talk, hey, how many of you are getting value out of this? How many of you have an event there where you'd love to come have me speak? If so, make sure to grab me before I leave or email me. I would love to chat with your audience. Just doing that, because if you're in front of 300 people, chances are there are 5 or 6 people in that audience that are hosting their own events. They will get you on stages. So that's two of the easiest ways to book more gigs.
Amazing. How come I never thought about that? That's why I mentioned in the beginning. I said, I am sure that I'm definitely going to learn 1 or 2 things from you. And that is happening already, Steve. Okay, we have one more to go. Now let us talk about financial freedom. Okay, what are the mindset shifts that are needed to reach financial freedom?
I don't know if I can get all of them into a short podcast, but the easiest ones, I wouldn't say the easiest, the ones that people should start with. The first one is going to be that it starts with controlling your spending. If a lot of people would say, well, I don't have financial freedom, because I need to make $1 million a month or some huge number. If you live, I'm not saying that you have to live way beneath your means forever, but our means, as we make more money, we tend to spend more money. If you are permanently living beneath your means and you enjoy the things, if you're just saying, I want to buy stuff just to buy stuff, you're going to need a whole bunch of money. But if you instead can learn to control what's in your head and you say, I don't need crazy amounts of money. I don't like it has nothing to do with money or income. It has to be doing with satisfied with what you have. That's the first thing, because it's going to allow you to live on slightly less money. That's the whole thing. You have to live beneath your means. You should not be spending more than 70% of what you make. And that, for a lot of people, you just heard that and people started cringing. They're like, oh, but I need all of these things. The thing is, once you start making, if you make another $20,000 a year, you're going to find places to spend that money. The reason that you need to live beneath your means is the second piece. You need to take money and you need to invest it so that you get passive income. Getting passive income is the holy grail of financial freedom, because if your passive income meets your income requirements, you no longer have to work. You have now essentially retired yourself. Now, you can do that through real estate investing. You can do that through stock investing. There are a lot of different ways that you can earn passive income. Investing in business, but in order to do that, you have to have cash to invest. That's the thing for a lot of people. So the first thing is you have to find a way to live beneath your means and start to save money. That's going to serve you well as a life skill from here until the day that you die. Because if you can be happy and content spending 70% of what you make, you're going to do really well. That's all up here. The second thing is find something that you can invest in that will serve you passive income. And as you grow your passive income, then you no longer have to worry about working. And you can do, honestly, I still work because I love what I do. If you love what you do, you can pick how often you work, how much you work, and when you do work, you feel really engaged in it. So those are the two first pieces that I would shift in your mindset.
Beautiful. I love that part where you said you work because you love what you do. And I think that's the reason why we should all work. You come to think of it, I tell you, we should all work because of that love that we have for the change that we want to see in the world. And we feel no one else can do it if we don't. We have to play our own path. That's why I love what you do, Steve. So, to bring this to an end, Steve, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those ones who would like to reach out to you, learn more about what you're doing, you said so many amazing stuffs, and it resonated with them, and they'll love to learn more. How can that be possible?
Sure. There's a free course that I have online. You guys can grab at steve.coffee, steve.coffee. If I were to leave people with one thought, a quote that has served me really well is make mistakes of ambition, not mistakes of sloth. Develop the strength to do bold things, not the strength to suffer mediocrity. I love that we're talking about, like, do what you love, work at something that you love doing. That does not mean it's going to be easy. I struggle every single day. I choose to do hard things because I know that's where growth comes from, and that's where satisfaction long-term comes from. And that's not from having necessarily a, quote, easy life. That's from choosing to do things that are tough and that challenge us and finding satisfaction in that journey.
In that journey. Got that. So that's going to be the end of the show, Steve. Thank you for coming, and thank you for sharing these amazing stuff with us. It means a whole lot, man. Thank you.
No worries. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
That was a beautiful one, Steve. I love it.
Awesome.
So in order to publish this